Well, Seattle, looks like the team is growing into a dangerous force. But what do they need to do to become a dangerous force? Let's rock, and I'll go over my top 10, top 5 reasons. Alright, what's going on, guys? My name is Antonio, and welcome back to the All Around Sports Podcast. I am your host, Antonio. Today, we are going over my top 5 things that the Seahawks need to do to grow into a dangerous force in the NFL. Now, of course, as you can tell, I'm a Seahawks fan, so I wanted to make this video for all those Seahawks fans out there, like myself. So before we get this video started, I did want to mention two things. First, I am trying to aim for 375 subscribers before the beginning of the NFL season. So if we can hit that margin, that would be really great. And the first game of the season is on Thursday, September 5th against the Ravens and Chiefs. So hopefully we can hit that margin by then. If we could, that would be great. But before we get started, if you guys do enjoy this video, please be sure to smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. But for now, let's walk in to the top 5. Now, just to note, I have based these things on both from last season and the moves that they made this season. So just to give everyone a heads up. So starting us off at number 5. I have this on here because it was a little bit of a problematic unit last year. I have the secondary becoming an elite unit. Now, what I mean by this is the cornerback room. If we look deep into it, you got new weapons all around. You still got Devin Witherspoon, who had a great rookie year. I mean, sure, it wasn't the best, but it was a great statement for him to do that. Tariq Woolen kind of had a down year that we saw because of he drew more penalties for the Seahawks defense. But the most important reason is the addition of Rashawn Jenkins of that was formerly with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, Rashawn Jenkins, I had no idea he was even on the market. But this guy, I have watched him during his career. He has been amazing, including the pick six game winner that he had against the Dallas Cowboys a few years ago. And I looked up his career with the Jaguars. He was there for 3 years, but the years before that, he was actually a member of the Los Angeles Chargers. So let me go over some stats here. So in his 3 year career at Jacksonville, he had a total of 5 interceptions. One of them he returned for a touchdown, of course, the game winner that I mentioned earlier. Then he also had 2 sacks, one in each of the last 2 years. He has also had a lot of great time. He has had a total of 78 assists, and also along with a lot of great pass coverage. He only allowed 1 touchdown when players were covering on him last season. And when you pair that up with the team that is already assembled in Seattle, you got a new defensive rusher by the name of Byron Murphy coming into that building. And you also have Leonard Williams coming back and Uchenna Nwosu at the front seven. Those guys are going to apply a lot of pressure. But the secondary, they need to get up and gritty. And Tariq Woolen needs to get back up to the status that he was during his rookie year 2 years ago. And if he can get back up to that form, he could break out and lead this team to victory. But the most important is Devin Witherspoon. Witherspoon was one of the top rookie corners in the last season. And also, he was a main man on coverage. He would not allow anybody to get first downs when players were in coverage of him. He is a growing star in the league. And Also, Jordan Love. I mean, not Jordan Love, Julian Love. He is growing into a star himself. We all know him from being a part of the New York Giants, which are now swamped. But but he has been amazing during his career. He has been amazing. But if this secondary can grow into a dangerous force, this team could be really dangerous in the near future. That's why I have secondary becoming an elite unit at number 5. At number 4, I put this one on here because it was a big problem from last season on the defensive side. Defense stopping the run. Now, we all know that the run game for the defensive side of the ball was pretty bad. It was ranked below 30th in the National Football League in that category. But when Uchenna Nwosu was there, he was amazing. He would lead this team to become a great team in run stop defense. And now you pair him up with not just Leonard Williams, but Byron Murphy also. I mean, I've been so hyped about this all year, all off season. Uchenna Nwosu didn't even play with Leonard Williams when Leonard Williams was traded to the Seattle Seahawks. Can you imagine what dangerous force these two are going to become, along with Byron Murphy? Can you imagine that? Oh my God, I'm so pumped. But anyways, the run game has to get better on the defensive side. Because if you're going into the division with the 49ers, who are run heavy offense, the Rams, who are run heavy offense, and the and the Cardinals with a running quarterback, you need to be able to stop the run. Because we all know it was a big weakness for this Seahawk defense. And if they can get their defensive run stopping better, this team could be dangerous. And we all know that that Byron Murphy is now there. But also, they added Jonathan Hankins from the Dallas Cowboys, who wanted out because he knows they're not going to win a Super Bowl. Sorry, Cowboy fans. I just had to. But anyways, as I was saying, Jonathan Hankins was one of the key pieces in Dallas when he was a part of that run stopping core. And he was a major piece to the Cowboys. Now you bring him to Seattle. And you also bring in new linebackers like Javon Baker, and also along with Terrell Dotson. Or I don't know how to spell Baker's name, first name. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is if they can stop the run, we all know how good this team is. And their defense. Their defense is going to get better with the coordination of Mike Macdonald, who beat the Niners down on Christmas, which I'll get to that in just a second on my next topic, on my next number 3 part. But anyways, I have the defense run stopping getting better at number 4. At number 3, I think every team needs this, and especially this team. Find a scheme to beat the top teams. Now, what I mean by this is we all know the NFC is getting more stacked every year. You already have the 49ers and the Rams to deal with in your division. But you also now have the Lions to deal with. You got the Packers. You got maybe the Bears if they are what we think they are, which is a playoff team. Also, along with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are going to be back this year, Atlanta Falcons, the Eagles. You need to be able to plan ahead of those top teams. And as we saw with the Ravens, when they came into San Francisco, one of the main reasons that Mike Macdonald was hired was because of what he did to the Niners offense on Christmas Day, where he looked like the Grinch stealing Christmas. But anyways, I just had to bring that up. But anyways, as I was saying, you have to plan around strategy. You need to know every single team's weakness. Like for the Niners, we saw with the Ravens, whenever they are putting pressure on Purdy, they are a weak spot. That's a weak point for the 49ers. You need to be able to take advantage of those weak spots. And you also have to make sure that you can plan ahead. As we all know, Ryan Grubb is coming into the NFL, who was an offensive coordinator from Michael Penix in Washington, who was only a few blocks away. And you got teams to deal with that are high powered on offense, like the Lions, the Packers, Niners, Rams. You need to be able to plan ahead on those offenses and defenses. And if the Seahawks are going to be a good team, they need to plan around those top teams because, especially when you're going into this next season, when other than your division, you are going against like teams like the Packers, the Lions, the Bills, and the Dolphins. Maybe the Jets if they are really what people are thinking they are, which is a Super Bowl contender for some reason. But anyways, this team has to find a right scheme to beat each team, which I believe Mike Macdonald will do. Now, we might not win every time, but it's okay because it's a young team, it's a young squad, but I have find a scheme to beat the top teams at number three. Number two, I put this one on here because it is a main issue on offense, especially last season. O-line protecting pass game and run game. What I mean by this is the offensive line was getting injured left and right last year. You bring in a few new offensive linemen. You bring in Nick Harris in free agency and also Long George fans. You bring in Christian Haynes in the draft from UConn. You also got Sotoa, I believe, from Utah. And then you also have, along with that guy from Finland. I don't know how to pronounce his name. But, anyways, Michael Jarrell, I think was his name, if I'm correct. But this O line has to protect because we all know that Geno Smith is somewhat of a good quarterback. We can't fully trust him. So you need to be able to protect him to buy him that time to find a man that's open if he's passing. As for the run game, you need to open up the gap, which is one of the reasons why the Seahawks ended up drafting Christian Haynes to help with that run block offense, with the run block. So if they can get the offensive line going, because you got low, that guy out of Michigan, I don't know how to pronounce his full entire name. You need to be a great center. You need to be a really good center because this guy has a lot of potential. And if this offensive line can be there to protect the quarterback and the runners, this team could be a dangerous unit. You need to protect the quarterback though. But that's why I have that at number two. Number one, the top thing that the Seahawks need to do. I have talked about this a lot during the time last year. And I believe this is a key thing that the Seahawks need to do and get back to their old ways. Run the ball. Use more of the run game. Now, what I mean by this is Kenneth Walker is basically another version of beast mode. I mean, he's not beast mode exactly, but he's your top runner, and he had a breakout year during his year one. He was amazing. And to show this, I looked up Kenneth Walker's stats. And this was a guy I had a lot of faith in once he came in from the draft. So, here's the stats that he was able to post up in his 2-year career with the Seahawks so far. During year one, he had 1,050 yards for a total of 9 touchdowns last season, including a, of 27 receptions. Now, last season, slightly diminished, slimly, and it was a total of 905 yards for 8 touchdowns, which is still not bad. In total of his career with the Seahawks, he has had a total of 1,955 yards and 17 touchdowns, along with 56 receptions. This guy, Kenneth Walker III, he is amazing. He can create highlight reels anywhere. And if you give him an open lane, he runs off like a cheetah, literally. Not to mention Tyreek Hill. I mean, not in offense to Tyreek Hill, but this guy is so fast that he can leave defenders in the dust. It is a simple fact. And this is one thing I saw from K9 when he entered into the league. And you also still have a guy like Zach Charbonnet, who is still good. He's kind of like your dominant man. He's like your front runner. He is the one that can get those extra yards through contact. K9 is kind of the one that can escape and create room. He's the one that kind of creates room. But this run game needs to get their act together because, as we all know, the Seahawks offense last season was the most predictable offense in the NFL. And they also made it close with some of the top teams in the league.
Huh?
And to prove this, I've looked up every single game from last season. Now I will note some of the games I'm going to mention are close games that were made by the Seahawks against some of the tough teams. I'm going to mention them right now. So first was the game against the Lions in week 2 of the NFL season last year. They made that game total in 37-31 with the overtime touchdown by Tyler Lockett. In week 6 against the Bengals, which they almost won, it was a total of 17-13. Now, of course, it was the play calling that lost that game because they went for it on fourth down in field goal range, which was a key problem because I took a lot of problems when that game was over. Trust me, I took a lot of problems with that. But, anyways, then they had the game against Cleveland, which had one of the top defenses in the league. The final score of that game was 24-20. The Seahawks ended up winning that, and then, of course, got beat down by the Ravens, of course. But also, another thing, they made it close between not just the Niners twice, but the Cowboys as well. Let me go over the scores of those games. 31-13. Not a lot of people expected it to be that close. Many people were expecting a shutout, pretty much. Also, the game they had against the Cowboys, 41 to 35. 41 to 35. That game was more close than anybody had expected, especially when it's in Dallas going against the Cowboys. And then lastly, the game that they had against the Niners in San Fran was a final score of 28-16, which is more closer than the last time. The last time the Niners only had 31. They held them to 38. And it was a 3-point difference in the road game. And I know it's not eye popping out to some people, but it is the Seahawks fans because no one, and I mean no one, was expecting it to be that close. Hear me out. And also, they beat the Philadelphia Eagles that were on the collapse last year. They beat them a total of 20-17, which Julian Love put out his top performance that game. And then they also beat the Tennessee Titans, which were not a thing to watch last season. They only lost to the Steelers 30-23, which is not bad. If you look at the games, they made it close. I mean, sure, it not against the Niners in like one game points, because the Niners are pretty much the top dog in the NFC West right now. They're pretty much the top dog. But if the Seahawks can get the run game going, we saw this a few times in the game they had against the Niners. If you run the ball, and pretty much Baltimore set the blueprint on how to beat the Niners. It's now last season. That was last season. But still, the Niners lost a lot of key pieces. But the Seahawks, they had a sneaky type of offseason, if I'm being honest. I mean, going out there and getting guys like they went out there and got some people, including an undrafted free agency. And as far as undrafted free agents, the two that pop out in my eyes is Nelson Caesar, who many people are thinking that he's better than Darrell Taylor, which I believe him because I saw his highlights, and also along with Jake Westover, who was a tight end in Washington. I really hope he becomes a starter. But that's why I have the run game getting better at number one. So to recap my list, I have used the run game more at number one, O-line protect the pass game and run game at number two, find a scheme to beat the top teams at number three, defense stopping the run at number four, and secondary becoming an elite unit at number five. Let me know in the comments what you guys think down in the comment section below. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What do you think the Seahawks need to do to contend with the top teams? Because many people are not going to think this, but some people might view this team as a potential wild card spot team because we all know that the Seahawks are not ahead of the Niners. We all know that. At least if the Seahawks can beat them once, then it's considered a happy season. At least if we beat the Niners, that would be a happy season, pretty much, because no one expects us to be even in the playoff picture, which that's fine. But if we can beat the Niners at least once, at least, then that would be a successful season in my eyes. But I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please make sure to hit that, be sure to smash that like button down below. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you all in the next one. Ciao for now.